evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Last night was AEW's Double or Nothing pay-per-view, and to some it disappointed, others loved it, and we're going to be getting into it all today and breaking it down and giving our thoughts on the show. And joining me to do that, firstly, the co-host of the podcast, Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
I'm doing well. I'm pretty gassed after this weekend. There's a lot of pro wrestling. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I was stoked about every second of it. Was it 4 pay-per-views in 2.5 days? You can't ask for a heck of a lot more as a fan. I'm just stoked to be back once again on a Monday.
Yeah.
I'm not usually here on Mondays, but after a weekend like this, gotta be here. And
absolutely, it's a pleasure to have you here, Clark, as well. And like you mentioned, there has been so much wrestling this weekend, which has been so great. Although I am kind of feeling slightly exhausted at this point now as well, because I had an exhibition on this weekend as well. But also joining us to talk about all this today, Shad. How are you, Shad?
What's going on, guys? I am back. I've been here, 3 out of the last 4 days too. So working on a Monday today. I'm excited to talk about this pay-per-view. We had our preview yesterday, so it's definitely got a lot to talk about with it. But Memorial Day weekend off today. Let's talk some graps, man.
Absolutely, and I cannot wait to get into it. But also joining us, Dryzzy. How are you, Dryzzy?
I'm good. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Also, happy anniversary to my good sis Keeks. It's her 1-year anniversary of doing her show, All Elite with Keeks. Got a merch on today. Much love to you, sis. It's been a long weekend, a lot of great wrestling. I need a nap after this.
I think we're all feeling the same way. But there is a lot to talk about, and we're going to be getting into it, and this is going to be a great show to end this weekend. Firstly, let's talk the 21-man Battle Jack once again. Blackjack Battle Royale for Orange Cassidy's International Championship. I don't know why that's such a tongue twister for me, but I think it's the 3rd time I've botched it this weekend. But the entrances for this match happened on the pre-show, the buy-in, as AEW calls it, and Jay White got his entrance. He wasn't even the last one on the buy-in. He was just one of the ones on the buy-in getting an entrance. Come on, he was meant to be a huge signing for you. Why are you throwing him away already? It frustrates me, but I'm not going to get into that. I personally would have, liked to see the show open with a couple of the top names like Jay White, Ricky Starks, and a few others enter to open it, and you had the rest come out on the buy-in. But it's just one of those things, and the start was such a mess. It was actually the worst start to a battle royale I've ever seen. Some people could just start outside the ring and do whenever they like, whenever they feel like it. But then others couldn't. They had to get into the ring. And it's not like all the heels just started outside the ring. Some of them were faces, and some of the heels already were in the ring. It made no sense. I did not like that. And Swerve, for the start of it, was just standing on the ramp, and I was like, why? But the Ricky Stark spear to Jay White was a highlight. His spear is brilliant. I would still have just preferred, Ricky Starks and Jay White to have a match on the show, but who knows? Big Bill looked amazing during it. Perhaps a breakout moment for him if they capitalize on him from here, but we're gonna have to wait and see. But the real highlight of this Battle Royale was the ending, because the last 5-10 minutes were fantastic. Swerve and Orange Cassidy the chemistry they had was just brilliant. I now really want to see a singles match between the two as well. What an ending to a Battle Royale. The worst start to one, which I've seen in a long while, but maybe one of the best endings I've seen in a long while as well. But overall, I was not a fan of this match. But Clark, what did you think?
I agree with so much of what you said, and we all watched this together, and I got to give a monster shout out to Shad. because yesterday, Chad, you called Swerve playing a huge role in this battle royal, and boy, did he deliver. That finish with him and Orange Cassidy was off the charts, and you almost called it word for word. And that has to be the rivalry coming out of this. I totally agree. The beginning, none of us were into it. It was funny. We all were on the call talking. We basically chatted through the first 10 minutes, and then we're, critical of the bad spots. But we're kind of like, And then all of a sudden, Cassidy and Swerve and a few others left in the ring at the end turned it up. And the finish to this match, those last 5-10 minutes were as entertaining as almost anything that happened all night. It was kind of laughable. We kept joking about it like, well, the last 5 minutes of the Battle Royal might have been the best thing yet until they got later in the show. And that part I was impressed by. I think that's a testament to Orange Cassidy. And he doesn't get enough credit sometimes. It's easy to be critical on Orange Cassidy. Opposite Swerve, that looked amazing. That's the match I want to see. And I think they did accomplish something with this Battle Royal, despite some flippity floppity sloppiness.
Yeah.
In the beginning. I think at the end of the day, we're going to get Cassidy Swerve, which is what we deserve. And I did not mean to rhyme that on purpose, but that's funny. And and I'm excited about the match. And I'm excited about the rivalry. And I think it elevates the title further somehow. They kind of pulled a rabbit out of the hat those last 5 minutes. And that's my biggest takeaway from the match.
Yeah. I mean, it's always the ending you remember. That is, one of the things in not just wrestling, but in life. It's always the ending you remember. And it had a great ending. Orange Cassidy, I mean, I've been critical of Orange Cassidy. I was very critical when they signed him. You can find that video a few years ago on this channel. But I was very critical when they signed him. But he's been doing a fantastic job with this title reign. I'm really enjoying it. But now let's move on to something which under-delivered. And that was Chris Jericho and Adam Cole. Going into the show, I was really excited for this match. Let's be honest, Double or Nothing had a really rough, and I'm going to say it, poor build-up. A lot of these matches were barely built, but Jericho and Adam Cole really was. It had a great build to it. I was really excited going in. And it just left a lot to be desired. The two didn't really work well together at all. It was quite sloppy at times. Several spots were botched. And I mean, the start as well with Sabu. I mean, come on. After everything resurfaced this week, you kept Sabu on. I didn't like it. It felt like a complete and utter mess. And then just to make it worse, the ending was a referee stoppage in an unsanctioned match. A referee stoppage in an unsanctioned match. What? It makes no sense, and this was really disappointing. It really did disappoint me. But Shad, what did you think of the match?
Man, oh man, oh man. I don't have a lot of positive things to say about this match. In my opinion, I thought it was just a lot of confusing stuff happening overall in the match. I mean, like you mentioned, it's an unsanctioned match. Why are you stopping the match like from a referee stop? It made no sense for that. I didn't like the ending. In regards to Sabu being the enforcer, it seems like he was brought there to get a cheap pop with his entrance, and then just do a weird table spot. That didn't make sense. It's just a lot of overbooked stuff. And then, I mean, in my opinion, you have matches like this to blow off feuds as well. What we got from this match is a continuation of the feud. I mean, we saw the spot where Saraya came in to fight off Britt. You saw Britt kind of go crazy. I think the best part of the match, in my opinion, was Britt getting those kendo shots in. That was pretty rad. But I mean, you get Saraya and her going through their whole thing, and now we're getting a tag team match with them on Dynamite. I mean, Chris Jericho to me is one of the greatest of all time. You could argue him being a Mount Rushmore pro wrestler when it's all said and done, but it's just my biggest thing with him is it's just so much silliness with it. Like, you built the feud initially so well with the whole Brit spot and all of that, and then you just continuously, it gets sillier and sillier. you throw Sabu into it. It just kind of piggybacked off of the foolishness of the match. And yeah, their chemistry was very clunky. A lot of the spots didn't work. There were a lot of botches. Um, I didn't really like it at all. It was very boring. It kind of was not really good after, the battle royal, especially when the battle royal towards the end of it with the swerve. You pick up some steam with the swerve and Cassidy and the cool ending to it. And you go to that. I don't know. It kind of played a part of how I kind of viewed the entire pay-per-view as a whole. It was a big miss to me, so I wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. But now let's move on to something else which I was quite critical of. And that was going into the show, and that was Jeff Jarrett getting a tag team championship shot for a second consecutive pay-per-view. But at the end of the day, I kind of did guess that this match would be quite fun. And it was. It was what I expected. It was, it was full of interruptions, a little bit overbooked and all that. But at the end of the day, really fun. So I had no real issue with this match. It did kind of feel actually a little bit more like a WWE-esque match than a traditional AEW style match. But I hope that this was the end of Jeff Jarrett being anywhere near the tag team championship scene. But for what the match was, it was really fun. And yeah, I hope now FTR from here go on and face some other tag teams. But Drizzy, what did you think of this match?
I enjoyed the match. It was so much fun. Jeff Jarrett in general looks like he's having so much. Everybody involved in it just looks like they're having fun. And when you're having fun in wrestling, it translates on screen. It makes everybody have fun. I'm also biased because I'm a Jeff Jarrett fan, but Jeff Jarrett was one of the best parts of this match. Everything is just so outlandish. We had Aubrey Edwards get hit with a, a guitar from Karen Jarrett, who, where did they even think to bring her out of nowhere? It was just a great showing. FTR, they never are too much. They're never too big to take themselves and put them in something like this. It was just an enjoyable match. It was in a good spot too, because as Shad said, the Jericho Cole match, it just wasn't hitting. It was a good way to bring everybody back into the show. It just put smiles on faces. It was a really entertaining, athletic, because the ending was great too. It was just an entertaining show. I do kind of want the story to keep going a little bit. It's gonna have to now. Karen Jarrett hit Aubrey
Yeah.
Edwards with a guitar, so we have to keep that going now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'll do something. I'm just hoping it's not a tag team title shot. I mean, do you want?
I
Do
don't
you
want
want them to
Jeff.
get another shot?
So I don't want them to get another shot. I want Jeff Jarrett. I just need more Jeff Jarrett on my TV screen because everything he has been in, it's been fun. It's been absolutely fun. You can't watch it without having a smile on your face because he's just so over the top. He gets it. He gets it. Like if Jeff Jarrett was doing the Jeff Jarrett Appreciation Society, that would be absolutely perfect. Which is kind of what this whole Jay Lethal, Sanjay, they need a name. It's a whole mouthful trying to say Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, It's a lot. They need a name.
Mm, yeah. No. Yeah. That's true. There are just so many factions as well that even if they have a name, which they might even have a name, and I've just completely forgotten it because of the amount of factions they have right now. But here's the thing with Jeff Jarrett, right? I'm starting to notice this. People either love or hate him. I've not really enjoyed most of the stuff. I know a few people who haven't enjoyed it as well, and I also know some people like you, Drizzy, who have really enjoyed it. It seems like a Marmite situation here, where you either love it or hate it with this AEW run so far. But I will agree, this match was fun. It was, and it did what it needed to do, and delivered to the degree that I thought it should do, and was definitely the first match to this point on the card, which I was like, okay, yeah, that lived up to its expectation. But now let's talk about another championship. Let's talk the TNT Championship, as Wardlow defended against Christian Cage in a ladder match. And I said going into this bout that Other matches are, meant to be for the ending of the feud, and this felt like very early on in the feud, but it became clear in the match that this was probably a one and done thing. But it was really, really fun. It was another match on here where it wasn't like, classic by any means, but it was fun. There was several great spots, but my biggest takeaway, and this isn't anything new, but I just thought I'd mention it because I don't think it's spoken about enough. Christian Cage is 49 years old. He's moving like a 30-year-old. I mean, unlike most of the older guys on the AEW roster and just not even just AEW roster in wrestling as a whole, he still looks like he's in his prime. I mean, unfortunately, I'm sure that Christian Cage is probably going to retire in the next few years or whatever, but he genuinely looks almost in his prime. He still looks great. The Arn Anderson and Luchasaurus stuff was good as well. Yes, it was overbooked a bit, but it was whatever. It was fun. I really thought that Luchasaurus' finger would come off. I actually thought when I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, he's bit the finger off. But no, of course, in the end, it wasn't. But it was fun for what it was. Not a classic, nothing I'd say, oh, you should definitely go out your way to watch, but a fun mid-card pay-per-view match. But what did you think about it, Clark? And sorry, the final thing I need to actually point out, which I forgot, is, of course, Wardlow got the win, which I'm really happy about. As now, they're not hot potato in the title for the time being, and I really do hope that Wardlow has a strong reign. But yes, go on, Clark.
So I've got a quick list to run down on this. First, and not to harken back to the last segment, but I've been hypercritical of Jeff Jarrett for a long time, and Dryzzy did sell me on. I agree. Last night was such a great performance, and it was so fun. I thought it was off the charts, and that was an awesome take. I did not anticipate that myself. I was critical of him on the show yesterday, right? And he shocked me. Now, let's talk Wardlow and Christian Cage. Wardlow and Cage on paper is so fun. You add the turtleneck with Christian Cage, and it's just comedy. And how does he appear to be 20 years younger than Matt Hardy? I've never been able to figure that out myself. Like, you're talking about how he's moving. He's, I believe, older than Matt Hardy on paper by birth certificate.
I'll double check that now.
But he appears to, and that's no knock on Matt. We know he's got the bad hips and everything, and that lends to it. But nobody was more crisp than Christian last night in the ring. And not only that, the way psychologically he lays out matches, a ladder match, everything meant something. Every single thing, all the way down to the previously mentioned cut off turtleneck, which is just comedy. I mean, that is so gold. It was so dang funny. And then you had Arn Anderson in the spine buster, the best spine buster in the history of the game. From the lefty Arn, double A. I loved it. I loved all of that. I truly believed if you were going to take the title off Wardlow, last night might have been the night, but I'm really glad they didn't. And Wardlow with the short hair, however he comes out of this, it needs to be strong and it needs to be serious. So I'm really hoping for a big showing from Wardlow on Wednesday. I think that best case scenario, we need some sort of a statement promo, segment, or match out of Wardlow this Wednesday to just put the pedal down. Yeah. Back down for that matter, right? Because at one point it felt like the pedal was down, but back down. It's time to give Wardlow his shot at a real run. And maybe not as a babyface.
Oh.
Maybe not. Maybe it's time to turn maybe Wardlow's frustrated about you didn't care about my ladder match with Christian. That might be an interesting story to tell. And he starts, and then maybe, and this is going to be my call, maybe a rivalry with Jungle Boy. Maybe a rivalry with Jack Perry. Maybe an easy way to do a turn. Wardlow's frustrated. You guys didn't. I had a classic ladder match with the Hall of Famer Christian. And that's not the story coming out of the show. It's an easy and logical route to go. You have a more powerful Wardlow coming out, and you've got something for both him and Jungle Boy to do. That would be, I think, best case coming out of this. The match itself, though, did exceed my expectations for sure. Yeah. And they weren't as high as I would have anticipated for a match of this caliber. but they exceeded them, and that was impressive enough to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It was certainly a fun match, and a heel Wardlow is something that I would like to see in the future. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'd like to see a bit more of a reason than just fans not caring about the matches. To be honest, a few fans did care about this one, but yeah, to your point about Matt Hardy, that's a great one. And I mean, Jeff Hardy's 5 years younger as well than Christian Cage, and you would not have guessed that based on both of their performances last night. But now let's talk about the AEW Women's World Championship as Jamie Hayter tried to defend her championship against Toni Storm. And here's the thing, right? Obviously, there was an injury in this. There was an injury to Jamie Hayter, so they had no choice. They had to do a short match, and they did it the way they did it. But this was the third match in a row with just complete interruptions. Like, at least spread them out, or because of the injury, change your plans for, one of the other two. It was the third match in a row, which was just massively overbooked. Jamie Hayter was, of course, squashed because that had to be done. Toni Storm got the title back again. Really, really unfortunate way to end the reign. It really sucks as Jamie is so good. Perhaps they'll run it back in the UK if Jamie will be back by All in August. I mean, that would be brilliant. And if Jamie then, wins the title in the UK, that would be brilliant. But yeah, this title reign was very mediocre. The booking for it just wasn't great. There was more of a focus on the Outcast storyline. And I just feel really bad for Jamie because she deserved this championship run so much. But Shad, what did you think about this match?
Yeah, I mean, going into the prediction, I thought that this could have possibly, been dark horse match of the night. But of course, for injuries are injuries. They're unforeseeable. You can't, dictate or predict when they're going to happen. So I mean, it's unfortunate that Jamie Hayter got hurt. Where we don't really have a match to kind of rate. It was a squash in the actual match within itself. But I mean, it's kind of what I expected it to be in that way, where it is going to be overbooked. It seems like they're really leaning heavy on the Outcast. They kind of view him as the main stage of what is kind of hot in the women's division. And I mean, it's just weird. Like it feels like the AEW Women's Championship has like some sort of like bad juju to it. Like, Rosa got hurt. She had to relinquish it. Now Hayter is hurt. I mean, at least we're not doing a relinquish title again. They found a way to get the title off of her and give it to another competitor. But I mean, yeah, man, I share the same thoughts. I mean, it's unfortunate. Like Jamie Hayter, all the momentum and buildup you had when she initially got the title and how she just naturally became such an over superstar for AEW. I feel like the title reign itself, mentioned before in the previous show, you guys were saying, I mean, it hasn't felt as dominant just because it's kind of been muddied with this entire like gang wars feud with the Outcast, and it's gonna probably obviously continue after that. I don't know how long Jamie Hayter will be out for. I definitely want to hope for a good, healthy recovery, but I'm hoping it becomes a situation where it could be back by All In and we can have that rematch, an actual match in the UK. That'd be awesome, but it's just unfortunate. I mean, that's all I can really say about it. I mean, I think Toni Storm is great. I really enjoyed her press conference, how she kind of really leaned into the heel character she's been doing. But it's just it's a tough call. So
Yeah. No, it is one of those situations where it's just really unfortunate. But I don't know. I just wish with this one, they had to do it. But yeah, I can't believe they had 3 matches in a row with just a lot of interruptions, a lot of overbooking. Especially when, I mean, at the start, that was some of the stuff they were making fun of WWE for doing. But it was one of those things where it had to be done. And I mean, Toni Storm's getting another, shot being champion. I'm sure that'll be great. I hope it will be. And yeah, let's hope they can run it back at Wembley Stadium, as I would certainly love to see that. But now let's talk about the House of Black Trios Championship match where they basically did an open challenge. Usually I'm not really a fan of the open challenges unless it's like a debut or a big return or something, but I'm never going to complain about seeing the Acclaimed, and that rap last night was brilliant. This match, it was fun for what it was. It wasn't anything I'd be like, yeah, got your way to watch, but it was a fun match. The rap from the Acclaim before was outstanding, and these House of Black rules matches, I am, I like the it's something different. I do. I personally actually preferred how they visually did the first one rather than the one this past week in Dynamite and last night. Because with those weird projections on the crowd, I think that makes it a little more visually complicated. I did just kind of prefer that, when there was just no lights on the crowd. But either way, they look visually different and I like it. It's something different, it's something fun. And I'm just really happy that House of Black are getting, the spotlight on them now in AEW as they're three phenomenal talents. And like I said, I'll never complain about seeing the Acclaimed as everybody loves the Acclaimed. But Drizzy, what did you think about this Trios Championship match?
Having open challenges on pay-per-views are so tough because just like you said, Ben, it's normally a debut or return, something big or major to happening. Most of the time when it happens, there's a title change. So to have somebody as over as the Acclaim that can take that loss, it was a perfect storm for everybody involved. The
Mm.
Acclaim were going to put on a great match. The House of Black, all great wrestlers in the ring. It Caster was able to add enough heat in a matter of maybe a minute with two verses of a rap. He added enough heat to make the House of Black want to kick his head off. And at that point, I'm just looking to see how long it's going to take to see before we see Anthony Bowen, Max Caster, and Billy Gunn's heads go flying into the parking lot because they've been kicked so far. It was a great. It visually, I enjoy the matches. The entrance, they finally nailed the House of Black entrance with their new song. Now, I needed to look like that every single time. It just when you have performance like that, it's hard to miss it. It's hard to mess up. The Acclaim, they're over enough that they could take that loss and it won't hurt them, and I'm looking forward to the next trios open challenge match because eventually we're gonna keep getting them. The trios division is the bread and butter at the moment. It used to be
Mm.
the tag team division. Now the trios division is where all the heavy hitters are starting to go. When you get the best friends, you're gonna get the elite eventually. Death Triangle when they're back full strength. This is where you're gonna get your heavy duty tag matches. Um, but again, great match, great visuals. Um, Billy Gunn's head being kicked clear off his shoulders without seeing it coming. Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great, great visual. And yeah, like you said, it's hard to go wrong with the House of Black. And yeah, that also is a great point. It kind of feels like how the tag team division felt at the start. And I mean, perhaps the worst thing to happen to the tag division in AEW is the trios division. But I think there's a way for them both to thrive and do well. And certainly at the minute, the trios division is thriving. It feels different, and that is all because of House of Black. And like you said, the entrance last night as well was brilliant, and I just hope they continue building them. But now let's talk about another championship match. There was a lot of championships, and that is the TBS Championship as Jade Cargill took on Taya Valkyrie. And the entrances were amazing. They really were. I really enjoyed both entrances. It made it feel like, a big match, which is great. It's what they should do. One complaint I will have about the feel of the match is that a lot of this happened on Rampage. A lot of the build-up happened on Rampage. And for that reason, I would have liked to see, a promo package going into it. Just, right just before the match, just explaining the storyline a bit more, hyping it up as, a big match, because Taya was, of course, the biggest threat in a while for Jade's title. And the match was a bit shorter than I would have liked, but it was fun. And Jade getting the win was, the right call to me. And I was like, well, this is fun. And then Mark Sterling was cutting a promo about, how nobody can beat Jade. And then out comes Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander has returned. And I was like, great, this is going to be a phenomenal feud. And perhaps she'll take the title off Jade. Nope. They do a match right there and then. And Chris Statlander wins the championship. You've been building this TBS championship around Jade now for so long, right? Since the title, got created. It's been Jade's title, and it's been amazing. And you made her look like an idiot. Who on earth would take a match with somebody seconds after, just going through pretty much a war? It's not like she's some face defending champion. She's not Orange Cassidy here. It's really, really frustrating to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I feel really, really, really bad for Jade, as she is so good. And Chris Statlander taking the title, by the way, I have no issue with that. But I would have liked it to be a feud. I really would. But Clark, what did you think about this match? And, well, actually, the match that followed after the match. Chris Statlander and Jade Cargill.
So I'll start with the original match. The original match, I thought they handled perfectly. I was like, no way, this is great. Taya feels like a legitimate threat. The entrances were outstanding. The initial exchange, everything. And then they did what they did with Chris. And I agree with so much of what you said about Chris being deserving. But last night, I don't remember her winning the WWE Money in the Bank briefcase. And I guess there was like an open challenge. Speaking of open challenges, I guess we just talked about one in the last segment, but really? And all the work we've put in with Cargill, it makes no damn sense. Not for a second. It's ridiculous. Jade Cargill went 16-0. She made the TBS championship feel like the most important women's championship. It was Cody Rhodes that said, like, oh, it doesn't matter which title it is. Try to make the TNT title feel like that. No one else has. Jade did with the TBS title. Yep. I never believed that the AEW Women's World Champion would be put over against Jade Cargill. Not for 1 minute. She did that with that belt. She did what Cody said. And we turn around, and not that Chris Statlander is not deserving, because she probably is. But Jade made that title feel like the most important women's title in AEW. And it's unfair and it's wrong, because I would never in a million years believe that Chris Statlander could beat Valkyrie and Jade back to back. But Jade already convinced me long ago that she could beat both of the other two in that same night. She could beat Statlander and Taya back to back. Jade could, but Chris couldn't. She didn't this time. But yeah, as far as storytelling goes, Chris couldn't come back and do the same thing. She could not defend it against Jade and then beat Taya and make it believable. And I love Chris Statlander as a talent. That is not a knock on her at all. But she just has not been on screen long enough, done enough to justify that. It's not right. It's not the way I would have booked it. I'm fine with it. But Jade better come back with a damn vengeance. And I hope this is just a route to the world title. So she can make that belt too.
That would be my thought process.
That would be my hope coming out, is that this is a route directly directly to the AEW Women's World title for Jade Cargill. Because that's who should be carrying it.
Yeah. I think
she's arguably the best title carrier in all of AEW.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Clark. But I think that's actually maybe why they did this. From a storyline perspective, again, it makes no sense about what I'm about to say. But I think they did this so the argument could be, well, Jade only lost when she, after she had another match. But, and then they put for the World Women's Championship, and they're like, well, she didn't lose that fairly, so she's going for the World now instead. And they're not going to do a Statlander versus Cargill feud, which from a storyline perspective, makes no sense. But I think that's what they're going to do here. But I also do agree with you. She is World Championship material. She maybe is I mean, I think there's an argument that in terms of purely homegrown in AEW, I think she's probably the best homegrown star they've had. Because I mean, MJF and none of the four pillars were actually, they were obviously grown to the mainstream in AEW, but none of them were actually, they didn't start their careers in AEW, whereas Jade Cargill really did. She came right from, well, she was in AEW. That was her first match. But now let's just talk about the four men who I just spoke about, the four pillars. And to this point in the show, I mean, there was a few, good moments, but there seemed to be bad moments to overshadow every good moment in the first half of the show. It wasn't great. It definitely didn't feel like a pay-per-view. But then we had the double main event matches, and to the shock of nobody, they both delivered. And the Four Pillars Fatal 4-Way was very fun and very innovative. It was what I imagined it was going to be. They all pay tribute to the mentors during the match as well, which was something I loved. But to me, and maybe I'm being overly harsh here, but it didn't really feel like a world championship match. It kind of felt like it was like a great match for like a mid-card title. I just feel like this match maybe happened in terms of, a pay-per-view too soon. I don't think these four guys were ready to face each other yet on a pay-per-view and to draw, because I mean the numbers so far aren't looking good for the pay-per-view. And I mean MJF is of course the champion, and I think he could have big mainstream potential. I really do. I love MJF, but you need to be putting him against top stars in order to be drawing money in for the company on pay-per-views, because he can't sell pay-per-views on his own just yet. But the actual match itself was truly brilliant. It was so fun. And I mean, if you didn't watch it, then you missed out. This is one of the two matches on the card, the second we'll get into in just a little bit, that I'd be like, yes, you need to go out of your way to watch this because it was great. But Clark, I'll go to you first for this one. What did you think of the Four Pillars Fatal 4-Way?
I said yesterday, I just wanted them to feature the other three pillars as best they could, and they accomplished that. You mentioned shouting out all their mentors and the way that they executed all those moves. It was awesome. I dug it. Everything about that, I dug. There was great storytelling, and to finish via headlock takeover. Come on.
Yeah.
It's so MJF. It's just, it cracked me up. Yeah, it was, I was critical of the match going in and the storytelling going in. They did their job in the ring for me. They delivered a rematch with a better story down the road. I don't know how far down the road. I don't know about availability. I'm not over speculating on that. But 6-8 months, another Four Pillars match, more storytelling. I don't think it's out of the cards now. And that would be exciting to me. It's not the time or place now. And to your point, MJF needs to feud with bigger names. And I think that's got to be on the way. And I think one of them might be just a little punk rock fan from Chicago. He comes out to Cult of Personality, and I think that might draw quite a bit of money. I don't know, just me. I'm not a business guy. But I'm just saying that might draw just a skosh of money, and we'll see how that does.
Yeah, that'll put butts in seats.
Yeah, that one will be, every 12 inches, there's a butt in that arena. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And I think that isn't next, but it might be next. I don't know exactly who's next, but it might be in baseball, on deck, you're up next. You're in the hole if you're up third. CM Punk might be in the hole. That's all I'm saying.
And I mean, they go in the debut, edition of Collision is in Chicago, so perhaps he could make a return there. Who knows? A lot of speculation, but we don't have the answers yet, and we'll have to wait and find out. Tony Khan refused to answer that question at the press conference last night. But, I mean, I would love to see a rematch down the road. I'm going to be honest, I'd rather it be 2-3 years down the road rather than maybe 3 is a bit extreme. 2 years down the road, if they're all with the company at that point, I'd really wait a couple of years and then have the main event in another pay-per-view in 2 years' time. And I think hopefully they'll be a lot bigger stars by then, presuming they can keep all four men. And that would be a big, big deal in 2 years' time. I'll tell you that much. But Shard, what did you think of this Four Pillars match?
So I was very critical about the match going into it yesterday. With that being said, it was an all-timer match. That was probably one of the best AEW like pay-per-view matches I've seen. I think all four guys delivered at the peak that they can deliver. I mean, the chemistry of it, all the spots, the pace, everything about the match was phenomenal. Like you guys mentioned, I love the callbacks to their mentors and stuff like that. It was awesome. I think Sammy Guevara, to me, really like showed out too. Like he really, I know a lot of people have an opinion towards him about stuff, but I mean, the dude is so incredible in the ring, and I think he showed out. Also, congratulations to him and his wife Ty Mello
Yes.
before the match, announcing that they're
So cool, by the way. Yes.
expecting a little one. I thought that was a really awesome little tidbit because I know that he's always used to do that during the break with the cards. So, but I mean, yeah, I think in regards to the in ring, phenomenal. Like it really like after obviously with the high of the Statlander returning, it just kept the momentum of the pay-per-view risen at that point for one of the main events. In regards to like what I view what comes after this match, you can do a lot of good with the other three. Going into it, I said it in the pre-show, I don't think that there was really anybody that convinced me that they can get the title off of Max. I mean, you mentioned it didn't feel like a main eventer. It felt like a match for a mid-card title. Due respect, I think Jack Perry, Darby Allin, and Sammy are all kind of mid-card dudes at this point. I don't think they are main eventers in the realm of like Danielson, Mox, Kenny. So it was that type of feel due to who his competition is, and that's why it the nature of like the story of the match, it being the Four Pillars, wrote itself. But we knew that Max was going to come out winning. But with that being said, I think those three won in their own respected manner. Where you got to kind of do some good stuff with them going on from here, and you can really build a future one-on-one storyline with a Jack Perry now that he kind of has like more of a psychological thing within himself where he could have won the match if he didn't take the higher road and hit him with the belt. You can build a heel turn to him where he starts going crazy. You can build a feud with MJF and Darby from what was going on with this, and Sammy as well, with him going at him about taking the pin because you're about to have a kid, you need the money and stuff like that. So I think you could build individual feuds down the road in Max's title reign. And yeah, I would be cool to watch this match happen in maybe a year and a half, 2 years from now, when you let these young guys continue growing and you help the other three become main eventers.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Drizzy?
So I agree with everything that everybody has said, but this match was not about the world title. This match was about elevating the other pillars to the same level as MJF. It did, and it did just that. I hate that they used this match to do this because this match could be built for so much more, but it's exactly what it did. It was built to make Sammy look like a main eventer finally and get out of Jericho's shadow. It was built to give Jack Perry a big match because he hasn't had one in a while. And it was built to get Darby Allin back to the main event scene. And you cannot convince me that Darby Allin is not the main event for the AEW Wembley show. Because out of all the storylines that kept on going in the entire match with MJF and everybody, they kept going back to the headlock takeover, and that originally was a part of the Darby Allin story. So I am absolutely for sure that Darby is challenging again singlesly, and honestly, that needs to happen until we get the next year too. That they all just need to get their singles matches. Um, I don't think that I don't think it didn't feel like a world title match. It's just that after everything that happens, you forget a title's even involved because there was so much good stuff of the callbacks to the mentors, everybody's conflicts attacking like Sammy, should I lay down for this money because I'm getting ready to have a kid? MJF, I'll do whatever it takes to keep this belt. Jack Perry, Do I really want to win at all costs? Darby, I got to get revenge on MJF for what he did to me. It's just so many stories were told in that. The last thing you're thinking about is a world title, but the match it's reminiscent of those TNA X Division matches. I put it up there with the iconic TNA Triple Threat match with Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, and AJ Styles. It's up there with that because there was just
Wow.
so much going on. It's iconic to me, and this is definitely what they're gonna when AEW's 12 or 15 years in and you're getting their this then now and forever video package. That's gonna be a big part of that.
Mm,
You're gonna
yeah,
get that.
I'm not even
absolutely.
trying to
I do
jump
agree
in,
there.
dude. Ben, I'm sorry, but that blew me away. That was iconic.
Yeah,
Speaking of iconic, Drizzy, you couldn't have broke that story down better. Like you brought up points that I didn't think of, and that's hard to do.
yeah. No,
That was sick.
absolutely. I agree with a lot of what you said there. I mean, the one thing I really disagree on is the Derby MJF All In, purely because they couldn't sell for them together. So a pay per view with two of those guys now, I don't. I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't like to see it. I'd like to see it from a wrestling perspective, but from a business standpoint,
I kind
but I
of
do
I,
agree. Then
I
now
do
forever would be.
I kind of think that Darby is a big deal in the UK.
He's not.
I think he didn't spend any time did he spend any time in
No,
progress
no,
or
no,
anything?
no. No, he's
Okay.
not. He's not really. The big deals in AEW over here are. I mean, Soraya is huge, huge over
Mm.
here. And there's a few of the others too. Darby's. I don't even think he might have wrestled in the UK, but yeah, I mean, basically, I went. I went. This is one of the things. Well, maybe I don't want to say. I went last year to Halloween as him. Right, I went as Darby Allin to Halloween, and there was quite a few wrestling fans. None of them knew me, unfortunately. But I do agree with your point. Down the road, we'll look back on this match, and perhaps this will be AEW's version of Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Christopher Daniels. That is a great, great call. But now let's move on to the main event because Drizzy, you just mentioned that felt, that was chaos, that was brilliant. Something else was just chaos and was brilliant was anarchy in the arena. And the match kicked off, and the entrance theme was playing. And yes, they carried on fighting during the entrance theme, and it was brilliant. It was just complete and utter carnage. The camera couldn't really keep up with the action, which on one hand I actually did like. It felt chaotic. I didn't mind it. On the other hand, I feel like they could have done a little better as they took the camera off midway through a super kick. That one I wasn't a big fan of, but it felt chaotic and that was good. The referee bleeding a couple of minutes into the match was hilarious as well. But yeah, wrestling. I think it was the Young Bucks were taking weapons and like popcorn from the crowd and using them as weapons. That was brilliant. Super kicking the band was funny. And the multicams they did, not picture in picture, but two side by side at the same time. I thought that worked well. The Omega Moxley throwbacks were great. Wheeler Yuta getting the pin then on Kenny Omega thanks to help from Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. That was brilliant. I loved it. And yeah, I mean, Konosuke Takeshita with Don Callis, that's an interesting one. It's an interesting duo. It's an interesting partnership. We were wondering what Don Callis would do now in AEW. I guess that's the answer. Great storytelling, great feud, and a great main event. And now I'm just really hoping this leads to a blood and guts match with Kota Ibushi siding with the Elite. But Drizzy, I'll go back to you first. What did you think about this main event match?
I'm not gonna lie. The first minute and a half when I seen the lead singer in that mask, it just kind of threw me off. I was like, that is an ugly, horrible looking mask. Please never wear it again in public. Second, it was absolute chaos. What else would you expect from a match called Anarchy in the Asylum and in the arena? It's
Mm.
just pure and utter chaos. I seen Daniel Bryan get rolled down the rails on his nuts down. Like it ouch. There were barbed wire. There's so many things. I'm gonna have to watch this match again because I feel like I'm missing a whole lot of it. But there was just so much going on between all the camera cuts and everything. By the time everybody got to the ring and we started getting to the actual story aspect of it, I kind of thought that they were gonna ride off into the sunset with Matt Jackson in the back of a truck. Like after Claudio tombstoned him in the back of a truck, I was like, okay, he's gonna hit the truck and he's gonna take off driving off down the street, and that was gonna be the end of it. Kind of reminiscent to another match that I've seen with Mox happen, but we had exploding shoes. I, I I may be reaching, but I really felt like that was a callback to Mox and Kenny's exploding match. I may be reaching a little bit on that, but it was it did what exactly what it did. I'm kind of happy that it was the main event because if the Pillars match would have happened after this match, everybody would have been exhausted and it would not hit the way that it did. We'd
Mm,
be having a whole different conversation about this, but it did its job. Mox is 2-0 in these types of matches. It suits the Blackpool Combat Club to be just destroying people like this, and I don't even think they didn't need to catch his help in this whole situation. It would have ended better. And the biggest thing that I want to point out, Wheeler Yuta pinned Kenny Omega.
yeah,
That is huge. That is a visual that Kenny has to live with now, and that Yuta now can hang his hat on to move him to a higher level now.
absolutely. That it is. I mean, we talk about building young stars. Wheeler Yuta getting that pin last night. I smiled when it happened. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, like you touched upon as well, I don't know how on earth, the lead singer of that band, nobody mentioned anything to him backstage because that was absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, what about you, Shad? What did you think about this match?
I might be a little bit of a hypocrite because I was saying that a lot of the Jericho's craziness and silliness in that match was being overbooked. This kind of overbooked stuff and craziness and chaos, I absolutely love. I knew going into this match we were gonna have a lot of just like, oh my gosh moments, just with the theme and style of the match, and we got that. Um, I was so glad when they kicked that lead singer in his mask, the dude with the mask. I thought that was poetic justice because I was like, why is the music still playing? Like going through all of that. I thought that was funny. The exploding kick was awesome. Just so many fun spots. But the two things that I wanted to take away with this were two things that you guys mentioned. And I think it's very important how you're able to elevate two young stars on your AEW roster with Wheeler Yuta and Takeshita. I think with Konosuke, we know that guy is an incredible in-ring worker. He can go on in a mat with like the best of them, and we've seen him have multiple banger matches with people. But in my mind, there was always just something missing with him. There's some sort of a character way. He had the friendly, happy-go-loving personality. I felt like we needed to give him that edge, and turning him heel, aligning him with Don Callis. I think that is a good way. I think you kind of give him a boost onto the roster that now you could really make him a super killer into it. So I thought that was incredible. And then, yeah, Wheeler Yuta getting a pin over Kenny Omega to win the match. That's like an accolade for him where you got to bump him up the rankings now because that's a quality pin that you got over arguably AEW's GOAT. Like, someone who's the reason that promotion is happening. Like, that's great. And, like, kudos to Kenny for, you know, allowing that to happen. I'm hoping that we do get that blood and guts match, like you mentioned, because that'll be awesome. I want to see this continue. I love all the wrestlers in this match. I love damn near everything about this match. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, 100% agree there. But Clark, what did you think?
You guys covered it spot on. I was at All Out though 21, the one that I want to point out, and Bucks versus Lucha Bros. We had the thumbtacks and the pair of Air Jordans through the soul for a super kick. How do you top that? I don't know. Fireworks. And I was so stoked about that. We joke all the time about them, overusing the super kick. Too many super kicks. Well, how about you add electronics to it? And then what? What do you got to say about it now? Because that was literally electric and figuratively electric in both ways. It was outstanding. I loved that spot. I loved the way both of the Bucks looked. I loved the Hangman eye patch spot. That's something we didn't mention.
Oh, yes.
Hangman played a great
good point.
role in this match. Hangman Page is not to be overlooked. I still think he's a top 5 Build-A-Beller on this planet. Every single day he laces up a pair of boots.
I agree.
I truly believe that. And not only that, I think he has the charisma to match it too. We just got to figure out how to get him to the moon at some point. But outside of that, everything about this match was fun as could be. And that's what it's supposed to be. It was anarchy in the arena. That's what you want. It was great. There was multiple screwdriver spots. I mean, come on. Who had the over-under on 7 screwdriver spots? I mean, like almost everybody and their kids got hit by a screwdriver in this match. At some point, it was anarchy in the arena, exactly as it's described, exactly as we'd want. The Blackpool Combat Club came out on top. We had the sleazeball Don Callis. I called him some very dirty words at All Out 2021, and he turned around and said thank you. So I'm actually a big Callis fan myself. It was great. I was sitting down there close for him and managing Kenny against Christian Cage at that time. He continues to deliver every single time he's on AEW TV as a heel manager and storytelling and all of that. He did it again last night. The Blackpool Combat Club has somehow been saved, I would say. I mean, we're talking about a faction that was built around a guy that works for the other company. So,
True.
Like, the fact that we are where we are now and it's still working, somebody deserves credit. I think Don Callis deserves some. I think Bryan Danielson deserves some. I think John Moxley deserves some. Claudio does as well for keeping it alive and keeping it relevant. Last night's when they truly delivered and showed what they're all capable of. And that to me was enough.
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
And you mentioned it was anarchy in the arena. It was not anarchy in the casino.
Like
you suggested on yesterday's show. I mean, Anthony.
I'm really hoping for that.
I don't have the pencil.
Anthony Ricciardi messaged me this morning about it. He was like, "Yeah, it was great. The main event was great because I hadn't seen it at this time." And he just goes, "I just wish they did it in a casino, though."
It was a good
you
idea.
Ruined it for us, Clark.
I'm sorry. It was a good idea. I'm a writer.
It was.
Yeah, TK hire Clark, man. give Clark the pen and pad for some booking. But
hey, last week we booked the contract signing.
True.
That's
and
true.
They should have did that. That would have been a whole lot better.
Yeah.
That is so true.
I certainly have been down for that, but it's just, it's one of those things where this show basically on the whole, it started, the first half of the show wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was just, there seemed to be for every good thing, and there were good things, a bad thing too, right? And we talk about this a lot, right? I talked about it early in the show, the Battle Royale. You always remember the ending, or like a segment or whatever, not it throughout. And there was a lot of bad endings in the beginning of the show. And because of that, it kind of left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. A lot of people critical of the show, but the double main events delivered. That's the one thing we all agreed on in this. They absolutely did deliver. Going forward, of course, we're going to have to wait and see the pay-per-view sales. It doesn't look like it's going to be very good. Ticket sales last night, they didn't sell out. They were over 1,000 short in the end. But we're gonna have to wait and see. But this one thing that this pay-per-view proved is AEW cannot be complacent, right? They have to keep on. They can't have any filler matches on pay-per-views. They need build pay-per-views better than they did for Double or Nothing. And I really hope that this is a lesson learned from this, as this could be the fact that some of this was mediocre. If they learn from it, it could be very good for the long term. But that brings us to the end of what's been a chaotic weekend for wrestling. 4 pay-per-views, absolutely brilliant. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Clark Shard and Dryzzy, for joining me here today. And we'll be back the same time tomorrow to talk, well, actually, an hour later tomorrow, to talk WWE Raw. See you guys then.